Hey, what's up, YouTube? Another video here talking about the second blog post that Last Epoch has come out with for quality of life and more. There's actually quite a bit of things to talk about today, so let's jump right into it. So it first says, hello travelers, welcome to the second pre-patch post blog. Today we're going to be highlighting some of the quality of life changes, as well as a few other changes coming with Last Epoch 1.1, Harbinger of Ruin update on July 9th. While we'll be covering some hot topics today, fear not, full patch notes will cover everything being added or changed or fixed in 1.1. Make sure to set some time aside to read those. Yeah, we'll definitely be reading them live. Yeah, definitely. In this section for mechanical changes, we're going to start off with mechanical changes first. In this section, we're covering some of the much requested quality of life updates to the most commonly used mechanics in-game that should help travelers as they progress through Terra, even our alt-aholics too. Wow, nice. That really includes me for sure. Okay, so changes to blessings. This is going to be a really cool one. Blessings can sometimes be a key place in making a build come together. Getting just the right blessing setup with a good roll can take a while to farm. The prospect of giving up that to try out another build can be daunting, each to discourage experimentation. To remedy this situation, we have added the ability to quickly and easily change your blessings without losing progress. You will now find an NPC in the End of Time next to the Monolith of Fate entrance. Similar to the passive respec NPC, for a small gold fee, this NPC will enable you to swap between the blessings your character has earned or the minimum rolled versions of blessings earned on your other characters in the same game mode. Wait, so this is like a blessing stash? Yep, it's exactly what it is, a blessing stash. In 1.1, after defeating a boss and unlocking new blessings, all of those blessing options will be saved to the blessing stash at their current roll values if higher than previously earned versions. This includes the blessings which you do not select when you kill a Monolith boss. You may then switch between any of these blessings without losing the roll values you earned. For alts, this means that once you have defeated a timeline, you'll be able to swap out a blessing that you have earned with any blessing from another character that shares a stash with. Blessings earned on other characters will be usable at their minimum roll values until a better roll is unlocked on the alt character. Okay, I feel like that needs to be just changed outright to have it be the maximum roll that you've achieved so far. Because, I don't know, I feel like having to go run that again to get a better roll chance it kind of like defeats the purpose, right? It's going to be nice to have blessing stash, but I feel like the blessings should update with every character. Pre 1.1 characters will have access to their non-equipped but discovered blessings as a swap options saved at minimum roll. Any currently equipped blessings will persist as an option with its current roll saved. For example, if a character has earned the Grand Cruelty of Formosus blessing with a 68% chance to increase wand drop rate, this will be saved to their stash. Should they earn this blessing again at a higher value, say 85%, but choose not to take the blessing, it will be added to their stash at the higher roll. So this is like kind of like what Diablo does, right? With the aspects that you get. But instead of it being with aspects, it's actually going to be happening with blessings, which is, honestly, it's a really welcome change. Once character B, an alt with access to the stash, has defeated the required Blood, Frost, and Death timeline, they will be able to equip the Grand Cruelty of Formosus blessing at its lowest value of 50% chance to increase wand drop rate, even if they have not earned this blessing yet. Once character B has defeated the timeline and earned the blessing, the higher value roll will be available to use. All characters will only have to complete the normal version of a timeline to access empowered timeline blessings. Wow, that's pretty cool. And then the next thing is going to be ladder improvements. So they're updating their ladder improvements, which is going to be really cool. This is actually going to enable a lot of things to sort of manifest from ladders and maybe create some competition within players. We understand that ladders and competition are important to a dedicated portion of our player base, and accuracy is an integral part of those. To expand the opportunities our players have to officially challenge each other, we are adding a brand new level ladder to Last Epoch. This will track the race to a level 100 by showing the leading cycle characters with the highest experience totals and a timestamp displaying when they reach level 100. We also have added timestamps to arena ladders to show when a player earned their rank by defeating the most waves. That's cool. So the next one we're going to go into is going to be Monolith Timeline Search, which is actually going to be pretty massive, I think, considering that everything so far you had to use your eyes to visually seek out colors, and it can be kind of daunting when you have an entire like web of places to go to. So with 1.1, we're adding a search box to the timeline map with buttons for common reward searches. This creates a quick way to filter and search for desired echo types and rewards with matching nodes highlighted on the map. So it looks like on here we've got gold, experience, runes, glyphs, helmets, unique sets, idols, and keys. Or at least maybe not unique sets, but like just armor. All right. Another thing they're going into is a loot filter improvements, and they say, okay, we heard you. Loot filters are getting some new filtering options. You will now be able to add multiple affixed conditions to a single rule. For example, you can have one condition for boots to only show if they have movement speed at tier 6 or higher, and then another condition to also include at least tier 5 or higher dexterity, vitality, or strength. You will also now have the option to show the relevant filter rule number at the end of the item labels while the loot filter screen is open. You will also be able to show or hide affixes that are incompatible with the item you are creating rule for. Oh, and we've also included the much requested legendary potential and Weaver's Will filtering. So we got Weaver's Will filtering and legendary potential. So this is kind of like how it does, right? He searches crit. Sorry. Let's go back to that. So he goes, okay, two-handed axe, I want crit. And he wants it above higher 6. And then he goes attack speed and physical damage at higher 6. So you can do like two, like currently right now, if you try to do multiple like stats, like multiple affixes on an item, and you want to search like a higher tier for one and a not so high tier for another or something, you can't really do that. You have to search like the item itself rather than having something like this. So this really fills that void of wanting to look for the specific item that you're going for, but also making it very easy, very intuitive to sort of change those sorts of things. Okay, item factions. It says, since we introduced our item factions, we have always wanted to provide options that suit everyone's preferred playstyle and also feel rewarding. Thankfully, you provided plenty of feedback and suggestions for our teams to work with, and below we are sharing the upcoming new ranks and changes to the item factions for the 1.1 Harbingers of Ruin update. Progression speed has also been taken into account when including the new ranks, and it requires less reputation to achieve the maximum rank in 1.1 than it was required to achieve rank 10 in 1.0. So that's good. Just means that less amount of time spent upgrading your faction ranks rather than and now they're adding more to it. So I would imagine that, it just requires less each time to get up to that new rank. Also in 1.1, each rank in item factions now provides a 5% increased favor gain at maximum rank of 12. You will have 60% increased favor gain. However, experience now scales less with corruption than it did at high corruption values, and favor gain is based on experience gain. At all normal corruption values, you'll be gaining far more favor than before at high ranks, but at extremely high corruption, you'll be gaining less than before. Overall, this means that getting to a high corruption and being able to farm it efficiently is much less important for farming favor. So it's like two different things, right? The first thing is going to be, for example, it says normal corruption value to be getting far more favor. So at lower corruption levels, you'll be getting more favor for your faction, and at higher corruption levels, you won't be getting nearly as much, which I guess is kind of like has that change, that like scale, right, where you either go into high corruption to get more items and get more experience, or you do lower corruption to get more favor and not as much experience or rarity on those items. So they actually go over each of the individual ranks here. Merchant's Guild starting. It says, while we were overall happy with where item progression is in the Merchant's Guild, there were some ranks that felt offered very little in terms of upgrades, as other ranks included all the relevant items. To make progression feel smoother, we have split these ranks and introduced two more. The changes are highlighted below. We have also heard your feedback on the Bazaar search function, and the team is currently working on updates to the system, especially affix searching, which we plan to release as soon as it's ready during the 1.1 cycle. So that's great. They apparently have an issue with affix searching, which honestly probably should have been in the game at the start. But, it is good to know that they are going to release it as soon as it's ready, which is great news. So let's see, Merchant Guild rank. So rank 1, you can sell all items, and you can buy normal, magic, and rare items in the Bazaar or directly from other players. Unchanged. Rank 6, you can buy exalted armor in the Bazaar or directly from other players. Boots, gloves, helm, body armor. Split from previous rank 7, so you get it quicker. You can buy unique items, weapons, and offhands with legendary potential in the Bazaar or directly from other players. Previously rank 6, so it's taking longer to get unique weapons and offhands. You can buy all exalted items in the Bazaar directly from other players. Previously rank 7. You can buy all uniques, including those with legendary potential, in the Bazaar directly from other players. Previously rank 8, which is now rank 9. Rank 10 is... you can buy legendary weapons and offhands in the Bazaar directly from other players. Previously ranked 9. You can buy legendary armor in the Bazaar or directly from other players. Previously ranked 10. Okay, so they just split it into two, basically. So, like, rank 6, for example, it starts off. Basically made rank 6 and rank 8 like the same, right? It was, you could buy all exalted armor and all... it was just, you could buy all exalted armors, but now it's rank 6 is gloves, helmet, body armor, and boots. And rank 7, rank 9 is the same thing with uniques. So yeah, that's kind of nice. It just splits it up, makes it easier to understand where you are and what you can do. Circle of Fortune. We heard your feedback on how Circle of Fortune felt, as if it was lacking when farming bosses and experimental items from exiled mages. To address this, we have added 2 completely new ranks that increase the amount of boss-specific loot and increase the amount of experimental affix items on exile mages provide. In addition to these, rank 12, previously rank 10, which duplicated prophecies, has received a rework. In 1.1, instead of duplicating the rewards, the prophecy will now act as if you had 2 of them, meaning it can roll different uniques. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. That's very, very cool. For example, instead of getting 2 of the same rings from a single prophecy duplication, you will now get the ring prophecy twice, which will, in most cases, end up granting 2 different rings. So that's great. No longer having, like... I've had this happen a couple times where, like, I'll kill something will drop, and I'll see, like, 5 uniques on the ground. two of them will be the exact same as the other two, and then one will just be a random unique. We don't have to really worry about that anymore. It's just like now it's just basically it comes down to making sure that that like you have those so that the pool of items that you're going to get is going to be much larger, which is I think is pretty good. So the Circle of Fortune ranks. Let's see, unchanged, unchanged, unchanged. This is nice. When a set item would drop, the whole set drops instead, which was previously rank 9, and now it's rank 4. So that's a great upgrade. I like that. That's an unchanged one. Affixes are 50% more likely to be exalted, previously rank 4. Exiled mages drop twice as many experimental items. That's very cool. So at least you get more experimental items when you're in rank 7. That's great because that's a lot of like the items that you can, like, say for example, put like an experimental affix on a unique item to create into a legendary item or something like that. Previously rank 6 was uniques are twice as likely to have legendary potential. T7 affixes are twice as common. The new one, bosses have 150% increased drop rate for any specific rewards they have. So this is a brand new one. Specific rewards refer to any items dropped by that boss. For example, Ravenous Void dropped by the Husk of Elder Gaspar. Bosses apply to all unique enemies that display a boss health bar. So that's like any Monolith boss, for example, would be great for that. Prophecies grant twice as many items. Previously ranked 10, changed formally. Items from prophecies are duplicated. So no longer duplicates the actual item reward, but instead considers as if you had the prophecy itself twice, meaning it can roll different uniques, for example. Okay, the next one, we've got 2 more to go, I believe. Gaze of Orobyss changes, which is going to be a great change. Corruption is an integral part of Last Epoch's Monolith of Fate endgame system. This is a mechanic players spend a lot of time with, as it increases the amount of experience gained and the likelihood of finding rare items, as well as unlocking the final 2 blessing slots. This means becoming familiar with the Gaze of Orobyss mechanic as well, which has proven frustrating based on how it currently works. As such, we're introducing some changes to help address the most common pain points, which is great. They're listening, and they are actively changing things in the corruption system, which is great. Previously, your Gaze of Orobyss had diminishing returns in 1.1. Each Gaze of Orobyss will now grant 12 corruption. This takes away the confusion over how much extra corruption you should expect to earn per gaze, and you will no longer feel like you can waste gaze due to the removal of diminishing returns per additional gaze. Another thing to help manage corruption, now only 4 gazes will be consumed at a time, so instead of all gazes being consumed at once, the rest will now carry over to the next echo web. The amount of gaze consumed is capped at 4 to avoid the possibility of adding too much corruption and experiencing a sudden increase in difficulty after killing a shade, while increasing corruption in your higher corruption timelines, which could lead to unfortunate player deaths. However, we do not have a change to make that less painful too. Upon dying to a Shade of Orobyss, players will now only lose 1 Gaze of Orobyss instead of losing them all. That's wonderful. Great change. These changes also mean that corruption can be increased faster, as consuming a full stack of Gaze, 4 in 1.1 will provide 48 corruption, which required at least 10 Gaze in 1.0. No specific changes have been made to the current corruption catch-up mechanic. So with these new changes, increasing corruption on your lower corruption timelines is now faster as well, which is, yeah, that's great. We also know that gaining corruption in a party has been less optimal, and that only in the player who started the echo would earn a Gaze of Echoes to help them increase corruption later on. This has been changed so that all players in the party who have the required stability to be granted a blessing when the timeline boss is defeated will also gain a stack of Gaze. These players can increase corruption much faster in their own timelines. That's a wonderful change for party play. All right, some class changes. Here we will be highlighting a few of the many upcoming changes to various skills and passives. The team has taken on board a lot of your feedback about how some skills feel outdated and have amped up their arsenal, so to speak. While the full patch notes will cover every single change, today we're focusing on a few frequently mentioned cases. So channeling skills, great. I love this. It's been a bugbear in the community that using a channeled skill stopped all mana regeneration, especially in builds where a zero cost channel skill triggered another skill that costs mana, meaning that players would need to ease off the gas and wait for their mana pool to restore. For 1.1, most channeled skills which prevented mana regeneration while channeling have been changed. They no longer prevent base mana regeneration. However, the base mana regeneration amount 8 has been added to their channel cost. Other modifiers to the mana cost have been adjusted where necessary to also account for this change. This change has been introduced so players that invest into mana regeneration feel rewarded for doing so without having a negative impact on players that have not. So it sounds like they're honestly just adding the mana cost to the skill and allowing you to regenerate mana, which is going to be, I think, pretty cool. Especially considering for the build that I'm doing right now, which is a Rive Healing Hands build with Judgment. I use Shield Rush to like get by, and sometimes it sucks to like use it when I'm at low mana, and I go across the entire map, and then all of a sudden when I get to the end of the map, I have to wait a few seconds to actually use anything because my mana hasn't been recovering in that time. Okay, so some skill changes here. All classes are getting full balance updates, so don't worry if you don't see your favorite skill below. The full breakdowns of these changes will be included with patch note post due out in the coming days. Today we'll be focusing on a few of the skills and passive changes, which will be more significant changes with Harbingers of Ruin. So something like Disintegrate, right, which is a mage skill channeled, as you can see here in this video. It's like Diablo has this, where you can channel it, you stay stationary and you channel it. Disintegrate has been historically been a high dependent and unintended interaction between two unique items, Ingvar's Head and Gambler's Fallacy. This combination allowed you to greatly overcap critical strike chance, which offered a massive multiplier to Disintegrate. This was a particularly healthy interaction with the mechanic and was easily overlooked considering the normal functions of the involved stats, and also meant that it was the only way to build Disintegrate. Yeah, that makes sense. With this in mind, we've updated older nodes and added new nodes in for Disintegrate and its skill tree to give the power it needs inherently and stop relying on this interaction. While combining Gambler's Fallacy and Ingvar's Head will no longer work in 1.1, Disintegrate should have many more build options available to it. The full list of changes will be included in the patch notes, of course, over 25 change notes just for Disintegrate, though today we'll have a look at some of the most impactful notes to look forward to. The base damage from Disintegrate has been increased from 15 to 24. Its added damage effectiveness increased from a modest 300% to a generous 480. Wow. That's insane. So just a huge boost of damage applied to Disintegrate to encourage players to sort of like build around Disintegrate. Leucomancer, which they revealed in the one of Mike's streams on a Friday. Basically, for every 2 seconds you spend channeling Disintegrate, you gain a stack of Leucomancer, up to 2 stacks, and each stack lasts 4 seconds. Stacks are refreshed when you gain a new one. Leucomancer grants more global damage to ignited or shocked enemies, and global reduced mana cost, which is wonderful. Hyperfocal is another one. Disintegrate deals more lightning damage based on your maximum mana, which is great. Flame Vent, when you stop channeling Disintegrate, you cast Fireball at nearby enemies twice per second spent channeling, up to a maximum. This consumes mana equal to Fireball's mana cost. So basically like after you finish casting Disintegrate, it fires Fireballs out, which is actually kind of cool. Alright, nice. One of these, I love Shield Bash, but I never use it because it doesn't really do anything other than stun. Shield Bash is a skill as a skill is one which has been in the background for some time. We notice when people talk about melee skills, Shield Bash often doesn't even get a mention, being a highly niche skill and a support skill left out of many builds because it provides a guaranteed stun. It requires a longer cooldown to prevent it from being overly abusable on bosses. However, there was certainly a lot of space available to improve Shield Bash. In particular, one area of improvement for Shield Bash was an offensive skill, which is receiving a lot of love for 1.1. Let's take a quick look at some big improvements coming to Shield Bash to help bring it into the conversation more. That's great. I would love to start using Shield Bash. I think it's a great kind of cool skill to have to build around, like bashing your enemies with your shield, especially if you use a shield. Shield Bash's base cooldown has been increased to 18 seconds. However, stunning enemies will now quickly make Shield Bash available again by reducing the remaining cooldown by 20% when you stun an enemy. This counts stuns from any source, including other skills, not just stuns inflicted by Shield Bash itself, which should open up some fun build opportunities. Yes, I agree, 100%. 20% is massive. That means that it's, you know, a one in 5. So you get a fifth of the time reduced off of that, which is, you know, about 3.5 seconds, roughly. Which is actually pretty massive, considering that you know, you use this as an ability to sort of like deal damage and stun enemies like that. So, Flurry of Blows. Shield Bash no longer has a cooldown, but costs significantly more mana and no longer has guaranteed stun or ignite. The mana cost is higher, so it's not like a before. I think it was like a 50%. Decrease your mana cost by 50% as opposed to just adding a flat number, which is great. Indomitable Force. Shield Bash has added melee damage based on your block effectiveness. That's really good. That's extremely good. So hopefully there'll be builds that come out that have this block effectiveness, a lot of block effectiveness, and you'll do a lot more damage with it. Shield Storm. Shield Bash has increased attack speed scaling with your block chance up to a maximum. So maximum speed is 50%. Half. So you need once you're at crit cap or block cap rather. When you're at block cap, you get the maximum attack speed bonus, which is great. Okay, Avalanche. Avalanche is a very well-known skill. Unfortunately, excuse me. Avalanche is a very well-known skill, unfortunately, for when it's used by enemies rather than Shaman players. We're aiming to change that in 1.1 with over 20 changes and adjustments to skill tree. As with Disintegrate and Shield Bash, there's lots more changes you'll find in the patch notes, though today we can take a look at some of the few big changes to look forward to. Alright, the base skill. Avalanche's base functionality has been reworked. It is no longer a channeled spell by default, and now costs 50 mana and creates one large boulder at the target location, followed by 10 smaller boulders around the target area over 2 seconds. It is now always targetable, and the boulders fall within a circle instead of an extended rectangle in front of the player. It has no cooldown. Wow. So you can... Okay, so it's just going to cost a lot of mana, which is great. And instead of making it a channeled skill, you can now just use it whenever you need to, and it's always targetable, which is great. Excavation. Avalanche hits have an increased chance to stun enemies. Additionally, the impact from the large boulders have a chance to create your upheaval towards a nearby enemy. This consumes mana cost a portion of upheavals. This consumes mana equal to a portion of upheaval's mana cost. So, basically another way to implement upheaval into your builds, so you don't have to worry about like putting that on your bars. You can have like one skill activate another skill, which I think is very, very cool. Alpine Guide improves Avalanche's base critical strike chance. When a large boulder critically strikes, it has a chance to drop a small boulder at the same location. That's pretty cool. So in the main boulder crits, it has a chance to drop a smaller boulder in the same spot. Boulder hits, Stormcaller. Boulder hits have a chance to grant you a storm stack. So this is great for like people that use builds that like increase their storm crows, for example. Okay, passives then. Skills aren't the only area receiving balance changes. We're also visiting passives from many masteries, with a few in particular and getting more attention. While none of these qualify as reworks, today we want to give you a brief look at some of the many passive changes coming for Sorcerer, Forge Guard, and Shaman. So here's the Sorcerer ones. Arcane Current, you deal more lightning damage to shocked enemies. Skills which cost at least 40 mana inflict a spark charge on hit, which is wonderful. Archmage, you have additional spell damage, and you have a chance to refund a portion of the mana cost of your skills you used. These values are doubled if you have 300 maximum mana and tripled if you have 1,000 maximum mana. Wow. Wow, that's really cool. So you can get 21% of your value back with 1,000 mana, which is wonderful. Mana Well, which increases mana, and mana spent gained as ward is 50%. That's wonderful. Mana Shell, mana +4 per point, and ward per second, and you get ward per second per max mana 10. You get 1 for each one. Dragon Breath, increasing area for area skills 4% per point, and elemental damage 7% per point. Okay, Forge Guard. Let's go, Forgies. Shield Crafter. You have a chance to cast a shield from Ring of Shields when you block a hit, and you have additional block effectiveness per shield from Ring of Shields. This effect can trigger up to 3 times every 6 seconds. Additionally, your minions have increased health and armor. That's great. So chance to cast shield block, 10% per point. Let's see, block effectiveness per shield, 20 per point, and increased minion health, 40%, and armor is 40. That's awesome. I love this. This is going to help with, like, Manifest Armor, for example. They didn't have very much minion health. They didn't have very much minion armor, so it's going to be a massive increase to having, 200% more health and 200% more armor. Champion of the Forge. While you have increased critical strike chance while wielding a two-handed weapon. So that Mike showed this on stream a couple of weeks ago. Increased critical strike chance with a two-handed weapon 10% per point, so 80% increased crit chance. And your crit multiplier by per 2 strength with a two-hander is increased by 1%, which is wonderful. It allows you to stack strength to build on that, and also you get more crit with it. Let's see, Master of Arms. You gain a bonus depending on the type of weapon you are wielding. Oh, this is great. Parry chance, dual wielding. Okay, so parry chance and dual wield and attack speed for that. Strength with a two-handed shield, 2% per point. Frailty chance with a shield, and reduced bonus damage taken from crits with a shield. So frailty and reduced bonus damage are great for main hand, offhand. Second one is going to be parry chance and increased attack speed while dual wielding. And strength with a two-handed weapon is 2 per point. Hammer and Anvil, armor shred chance per point. Nice. After directly using an ability that costs 20 or more mana, your minions gain increased attack speed for a short duration. Wonderful. More things that increase, minions on the Forge Guard is a very good thing, I think. Javelineer. Throwing attack critical multiplier 10% per point. Your throwing attacks have additional base critical strike chance per 5 points of dexterity. So you get 1% more per 5 points of dexterity, which is great. Okay. Last but not least, Shaman. Let's see. I haven't yet to play a Shaman, but I will. You have additional health and mana and a chance to cast Maelstrom when hit. This effect has a 3-second cooldown. Great. That's 6 out of 6. So that's what it looks like with 6 out of 6. Okay, Shattered Heavens. You and your minions deal additional cold damage with spells and attacks, and your hits have a chance to inflict frostbite. Wonderful. 20% per point, so you can get 100%. Minions get 50%. You get more cold damage. They get more cold damage. That's great. Avatar Thunder. You and your minions gain additional spell lightning damage. shared spell lightning damage to +2 per point. You and your minions have additional spell lightning penetration per 5 points of attunement. That's great. More penetration is wonderful. It means that you can deal more damage quicker. Okay, Ironbark, you have additional health and armor, and these effects are tripled for your totems. The 8-point bonus is you will have additional health regen scaling with your attunement. This effect is tripled for your totems. So basically, totems can't be stunned. They get more health regen, and you get more health and armor. Gift of the Skies. Increased attack speed, increased cast speed, and dodge rating. When you directly summon a totem, it gains Frenzy for a short duration. That's very cool. I like that. Very, 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 very sweet. Okay. Ward balance. Since the introduction of experimental items and with the percent missing life gained as ward effects on gloves, ward has been a dominant force in the world of Eterra. In addition to this, the Rune Master's ability to generate ward, and recently Warlock and Healing Hand's ability to generate massive amounts of ward. It's a little wonder how the topic of health versus ward has become such a big talking point, and we haven't been blind to the conversation. While there's absolutely specific changes to be introduced to rein in some of these methods as ward generation, this isn't the first time ward has come up as a hot topic. Because of its nature of decaying, but otherwise being infinitely stackable, it's easy for ward to quickly fall out of line. So when we're making these individual changes to outlier methods of ward generation, we're also making a more significant change to ward overall. That change is in the ward decay formula. The biggest thing we want to clarify with this is the formula change is not a full-on nerf. While there are certainly the potential for outliers of high ward generation being reined in, there's also natural and intended methods of ward generation which currently feel a bit too weak. As such, the change in the formula results in stronger retention of ward when below 4,000, and to address outliers is much faster decay when over 10,000. For clarity, we're providing the exact formula below. So basically, you can see this was your current ward. So the formula for ward retention. So trying to be a bit more readable, and for those of us that hate maths, the change here is going from 40% of your ward per second to 20% of your ward per second, plus a thousandth of a percent, 5,000ths of a percent of your ward per second squared. Of your ward squared per second. God, hate maths. This means normally lower ward generating builds such as ward per second or hybrid ward health builds will now be able to maintain their ward a little bit better, but if an outlier crops up, the base formula will help limit its impact. Okay, and then it says we look forward to seeing the changes make your journeys through Eterra feel even better. And we thank you for all your feedback and suggestions to help continue to make the game our players want to see. Thank you again for your continued support, and can't wait to stand shoulder to shoulder with you against coming darkness on July 9th when Last Epoch 1.1 Harbingers of Ruin launches. Awesome. I think these are all massive good changes. Specifically, we have some channeling abilities, which are being changed, which I think is going to be wonderful. We've got obviously a lot of class changes that are coming. We have good Gaze of Orobyss changes coming. We have new rework of Circle of Fortune and the Merchant's Guild ranks. Some of them have been unchanged. Some of them have been kind of split down the middle. So one rank is now 2 ranks, for example. We have loot filter improvements, so you can search 2 or 3 different affixes if you want at different tier levels. Monolith timeline search, so you can search for specific rewards in your timeline a lot easier. They're adding a ladder improvements, a ladder for the highest wave that you've gotten and at what level you were and what time you were at, as well as leveling ladders, so you can see who can get to level 100 the fastest, sort of a thing. And then obviously their main opener, which was the changes to blessings. So you can have like a blessing stash, for example. You can, yeah, it's all very very nice. I'm very excited for all this sort of thing. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys like this, if you're enjoying it, hit that subscribe button if you think I earned it from you guys. Make sure to like and comment, and we will see you guys July 9th in Atera. See ya.